Media and Broadcasting, Dr. Ibrahim Assise. And we have the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Mr. Babkar Job, and our able Director General of the Gambia Information and Communication Technology Agency, Professor Dr. Abdul Karim Jallo. We have DPS Kinte from the Ministry of Information, Media and Broadcasting, Deputy Director of Information Services, Mr. Njai, Principal Information Officer, Department of Information Service, Madi Basila, colleagues from the media, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to have you today for another edition of the Gambia government's monthly or regular press conference. We'll start with the Honorable Minister of Information, Media and Broadcasting to give us a roundup of updates on the achievements and progress the Gambia government made in delivering its services to citizens since our last press conference. Honorable Minister, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Good morning, our guests who are here today to be part of this press conference today. We start with Mr. PS, Permanent Secretary Job from the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to give us an update of the economic situation. We all know that the budget is currently being debated in the National Assembly. I think the budget statement will be done on Friday. We have also GICTA, the Gambia ICT agency. As we all know, we're in a digitized world now. Every sector has to go digital, and they are the agency tasked with that job to ensure that Gambia also goes digital. Our digital transformation is smooth and seamless. Now, you said updates. Yes, there are updates. I think this is going to be our last press conference for 2024. It's been a very good year. We've had very good and successful press conferences. I think the updates will be generally nationally. We all know there has been an explosion of development in 2024, starting from last year, in every sector. I think starting with the security situation, the country has been very stable compared to other countries in the sub-region. The security situation also stable. Politically, it's been a very stable political environment. These are facts. This is backed by empirical evidence that one of the most stable countries today, politically, socially, it's the Gambia. When it comes to delivering social services as well, the government has been doing extremely well. When it comes to electricity, really the rural electrification process is ongoing. We've had an enormous expansion of electricity, to the extent that the figures tell us that from 2017 to date, 203,000 meters have been deployed, compared to 193,000 from independence to 2017. It means that the government's vision to ensure that every community has electricity is going very well. But also water, rural communities, through the water projects, through the Ministry of Fisheries and Water Resources, we have a lot of water projects going on through boreholes that serve communities. That is also going on. When it comes to education as well, we've all seen how government is giving scholarship to tertiary education students. Over 3,000 of them are benefiting from government scholarships. We're introducing the student loan scheme where students can take loans and pay for their fees and then pay later once they start working. The USET building is progressing. UTG Faraba campus is already on. Students have moved there. That is also doing well. When it comes to healthcare, we've also expanded healthcare access to rural communities. We already built almost 8 state-of-the-art health centers across the country in different locations. We are also building 10 more. This all to ensure that rural communities have access to basic healthcare. When it comes to the social interventions, we've all seen how the Giraffe project through the Ministry of Agriculture is distributing $116 million to different groups and individuals who are engaging in certain agricultural projects like cashew production, like small ruminants, and so on and so forth. So it's been a very good year. I think it's unprecedented that a government that is overcoming a transition in light of global challenges, not only global challenges, but also a transition, but also population growth is doing very well. It's developing in every sector. So it's been a very good year, and we thank His Excellency the President for his leadership, for his vision, for making sure that now we focus on innovative financing. And you've all seen the government has built over 1,000 kilometers of roads across the country. Since independence, there are communities in this country that since independence, for 52 years, they've not had water, no electricity, no healthcare service, no school, no roads, no water. This government has brought this to their doorsteps. Recently, during the Meet the People's Tour, and I congratulate every Gambian for the support they've given us, the government, during the Meet the People's Tour. It's been a very successful Meet the People's Tour. It ended yesterday in Banjul with a rousing welcome and support for the president. The president took the time to engage farmers, engage citizens, to understand their plight, their challenges, and their aspirations, but also laid his vision for the citizens, and also looked at projects, ongoing projects, particularly the famous Hakalang Road, which is 87 kilometers. Almost 82% is complete. It's a big project. It is going to connect communities in Nyomi, Jokado. It's a big project. Also, we've also visited almost 384 kilometers of OIC rural and urban roads as well, with 50 kilometers OIC roads, because the roads are the backbone for any development. Development cannot happen without road infrastructure. That is why the president's priority is to ensure that we build the roads that are needed to connect communities, to boost trade and tourism, but also to boost the economy. Gambia is doing well economic-wise. Inflation has gone down from 18% to somewhat between 10 and 8%. The medium-term aim is for 5% by the central, according to the central bank forecast. Growth is going from 5.3 to 5.6% to 6% by 2020, end of 2025. The budget is a very good, one of the best budget the Gambia has produced for decades. It's almost a balanced budget. 0.1% of GDP is the deficit. That is $198 million, which is unprecedented. Normally, countries aim for between 4 and 5% of budget deficit of GDP, but we're able to manage 0.1. This is all because of the prudent monetary and fiscal policy of this government. I won't go into the details. I have some updates to make, but also mostly we are going to refute some allegations made by the opposition, but I have the competent people here to do it. It has most to do with the economy. So for us, that is it. It's been a very good year for the government, for the people of the Gambia, and we commend and thank every citizen for the support they've given to this government, for your loyalty, for your steadfastness, for your patience, but also for being law-abiding citizens. There are challenges, of course, but every country faces challenges. And in fact, development comes from challenges. I mean, any day we wake up in the morning and there are no challenges, then no, the world will end that day. So every day comes with new challenges. What is important is our resolve to find solutions to solve those challenges. And that is what tests us as leaders. And I think the leadership of His Excellency has not been relenting. Every challenge that comes, we've always found ways to solve those challenges. But the most important thing, which is I think is the icing on the cake, which I nearly forgot, is the civil service salary restructuring. From January, civil servants will see a boost in their salary. This is good for the economy. I mean, John Maynard Keynes, a famous economist, says that if there is stagnation or stagflation where there is low growth, governments should pump money into the economy through labor policies or perhaps through capital investments. When you pump money into the economy, you increase the purchasing power of citizens. When they spend more, businesses thrive. It will give a boost to production. That is what this government is doing. We are going to increase salaries next year. It will see also how it is going to affect our economy, just to what they call a cushion the impacts of the cost of living crisis, which has affected every part of the world, particularly in the Gambia. So to cushion the impact of this cost of living crisis, government is going to boost the salaries of civil servants by an average of 30%. What that means is that those at the lower tier that can get up to 60% increment, and those at the upper tier up to 15%. That is how it is, so that we narrow the gap between those who earn more and those who earn less. So nobody's left behind, because our mantra is inclusive development, inclusive prosperity. That is prosperity that leaves no one behind. That is why if you look at what the president is doing, development starts from rural areas. We are building more in rural areas than urban areas, so that there will be a time when nobody will be left behind. The gap between rural and urban, the dichotomy will not exist anymore, so that when you go to Bolibana, you would think that you are somewhere in urban Gambia. We want to remove the dichotomy between rural and urban. That is the vision of the president, His Excellency. So this is it. Until next year, we will see you next year. And I think now we will hand over back to the chair to call on the next speaker to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. You highlight significant development, especially road infrastructure. We understudied the development of India. It leapfrogged thanks to road infrastructure. And also this requires attitudinal change. I hope next year we'll be able to have the National Road Authority and the Ministry of Works, because it's a concern. All this infrastructural development requires behavioral change, the use of the roads. You know, this is something that I wanted to, I cannot have to let it out. Let's respect zebra crossing and the rules. All this news traffic, there are rules, and I think the Ministry of Works and the Road Authority needs an aggressive sensitization on the road. Respect zebra crossing. This is a message that cannot wait till next year. When you see people around the zebra crossing, no matter, except you are an ambulance or police or emergency, stop and allow pedestrians to cross. And slow down near public infrastructure, be it schools, hospitals. And these are the rules that we have to amplify this message. We don't need to wait. So it is for the citizens, but we have to also adjust and realize this important development. On that note, I'll cross over to the Permanent Secretary, Babukar Job, from the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to educate us on the steps taken in addressing our economic transformation. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. Good morning, DG. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and the press. I think my work has been cut out for me already, because the briefing in terms of the economy that I was supposed to do, the Honorable Minister has ably done it. So it makes life less tasking for me. Yes. But maybe I would just give you a summary of the economy as it currently stands. Realize that the global economy is actually still robust, resilient, and growth rates have been revised downwards to about 3.2% globally. Inflation is actually tending downwards in the global, but you still have supply chain disruption still not to the level pre-COVID period. You come to the Gambia, you realize that our growth rate for 2024 is forecasted to be about 5.7% in 2024, over compared to 4.8% in 2023. The economy is improving and stable currently as we speak. If you look at inflation, inflation is also trending downwards from 18.5% in 2023 to about 10% for the past 2 months, that is September and October. Inflation has been stable around 10%. We're hoping, like the Honorable Minister said, the medium-term target for inflation is about 5%, which we are actually working towards. On the side of the industrial sector, you realize that the sector is driven mainly by construction over the past years. It's estimated to register growth of about 0.8%, just under 1%. And the slowdown is mainly due to the completion of many high impact projects. Some of you've seen the Battle Harden Highway. We are currently working on the next phase of the Battle Harden Highway, which is phase 3, which is the side roads. I know a lot of people have been asking about whether the Battle Harden Highway will just be left like that, but the phase 3 will look at the side roads as well. Hopefully, early next year, we'll kickstart on that project. In terms of an agricultural sector, you see that there is expected growth for about 6.6% in 2024. If you come along the lines of the finances of the government, the revenue mobilized for the first 9 months of the year, tax revenues amounted to about 13.2 billion, sort of a 3.4% increase over the projection. You also realize that we have also surpassed our non-tax, our target for that period. Expenditure, on the other hand, has been particularly difficult this year, owing to the fact that we had the OIC. We also had interventions that we had to do in NAWEC. Close to $20 million was actually pumped into NAWEC to at least cushion any potential tariff increment that would have actually happened. So that has actually led to our expenditure going beyond what was actually forecasted. We are looking at about 4.5 billion as at the end of this year. Most likely it will hover around $5 billion and along those lines. So in terms of the broad categories of the macroeconomy. I believe recently the central bank had a recent MPC where the policy rate is actually still maintained at 17%. But you will also realize that monetary policy has also been very tight to make sure that at least inflation doesn't go out of control. So, Honorable Minister, I believe these are just some of the major issues that have actually transpired for the first 11 months of the year, and I'm open to further questions. Okay, thank you very much.
If you have any questions for the Honorable PS, feel free to ask. I know for the average citizen, all these figures are dry. All they want to, when they go to the market, they feel it. That's what they want to understand.
No, maybe let me touch on the issue that the Honorable Minister has actually mentioned, that it's regarding salaries. Yes, we would increase salaries of civil servants next year, and you realize that those that what we call grade 1, starting their basic salary would increase to over, on average, to over about 75%. So what you have is a cascading in terms of as you go higher in the grading system, the percentage increment is actually reduced. This is also to address what we call to address the equity aspect of things. So what you hear is 30% increase, but the 30% is not 30% for every grade. So you have a higher percentage growth for those who are at the low end, which is grade 1, 75%, to the level of grade 12, you see around 20% increment on their basic salary. So that's what is actually happening. So salary increment would definitely take place next year. Okay.
Your name and media organization.
Thank you very much. Upscale my colleagues. Okay, thank you very much. My name is Yusef Taylor for Askanwe Media. My question is with regards to the issue of, that you've talked about this inflation, but we have observed that food inflation is still in double figures, if I'm not mistaken. Food inflation, which is one of the biggest problems that people are facing in this country. So if you can please talk to that issue and how the government is performing with regards to food inflation. Also, you talk about the issue of, for example, the salaries. Perhaps you can give us the proper breakdown. We really appreciate that, you've given us even further information, because what is out there from the minister's speech was just 30%. So if we can have a breakdown of each of these salary, is it pay scale grades? We said 75 and then up to down to 20 at the top. So please, if you can kindly highlight that. Then I would want to put it to you that unemployment amongst young people is almost 50%, which is showing an increase in unemployment. More people are out of jobs in this country from the previous administration of Yahya Jammeh to this current administration of President Adama Barrow. Now, this government has pledged to create 150,000 jobs. Of course, I know Ministry of Trade are the one who are looking at this. But this reflects that maybe the economy, as we are saying, is not as stable, and it is not really, really where we want it to be. What is your benchmark when you say Gambian economy, perhaps that's the doctor, is one of the most stable in the region? What is your benchmark, sir?
Okay, I think I will address the first issue with regards to inflation. I think in terms of specifically on food inflation, you will realize that most of what we consume is not produced in the country. And so that aspect of it, you are importing what is actually over 80% or 90% of what is consumed in the country is not actually grown in the country. So those things are actually at a high percentage of what you are consuming. So you are importing that aspect of it. Unless and until that we grow and eat what is it actually produced here, you will not make that much impact. So you are at the mercy of the importation and also the challenges that we are having in terms of trying to expand on the port. So that is also affecting prices. What government is actually doing vis-a-vis that is to make sure that at least, and that's you've seen in terms of various private sectors that have actually entered into rice, which is our staple food. A lot of investment is in the area of rice so that at least we reduce the extent to which we are importing rice into the country. Work is on the way to be able to have the what's it called again, the refineries, oil refineries, to come back through the groundnut production that we're actually doing. So there is work towards that from the level of GGC, formerly GGC. So along the lines of that, you see that in the medium term, you're expecting to have a reduction in terms of inflation along those lines. Aside from that, you also mentioned, what was the second question? On the salary component, the salary component of things. Yes, we would share once we are having the budget speech on Friday. After that, we will also maybe publish the new pay scale that government is actually going to implement in 2025. What I can tell you is that right now, what a grade 1 is currently earning is around $3,500. What we are expecting in 2025, we do not expect anyone who's in the civil service at the level of grade 1.1, that's the lowest grade, grade 1.1, to be earning anything less than $6,000. So you will not have anyone earning less than $6,000 come 2025. So that in itself is a major departure from where we are. And that is putting money in people's pocket because, like the Honorable Minister said, yes, in order to cushion the challenges that you're mentioning in terms of inflation, which is not only a phenomenon that is actually affecting the Gambia, but affecting the whole world right now. You go to other countries right now, Nigeria, you are looking at inflation of over 20%. Ghana, the same thing. All of these countries that are actually endowed with resources have inflations that are beyond 15 to 20%. Sierra Leone, the same. So a Gambia that the little we have, and which the media keeps saying that there is a tax-based economy, without those resources to help in terms of the general public, we are able to manage the inflation to the level of around 10%. So I think those are some of the interventions that government is actually doing vis-a-vis that area. In terms of unemployment, yes, this has been a major concern for the government. And I think there are a series of things that government is actually doing towards that. Like you've mentioned, the president made a pronouncement of 150,000 jobs, which the Ministry of Trade is championing. But in addition to that as well, what we are also doing is not only employment, but you're also creating skills to make sure that individuals have the relevant skills so that they can come into the job market. I think we also have to have a departure in terms of employment. I think what is actually happening, not only in the Gambia, or what is happening in the developed world, is people creating employment. And that's the drive. That's why he mentioned in terms of the scholarships that government is actually giving to students. We want individuals to create employment. It is not for Gambia. Any country where you see government being the largest employer is not a country that is going to grow out of poverty. You go to the US or you go to developed countries, against Silicon Valley, you have people that are creating employment. And that's the idea we want to sort of entrench in Gambia, where you have individuals coming up with ideas and creating jobs. And that's the only way we can get out of the poverty that you are actually mentioning too. So the idea is not for us to look for where government or maybe a private sector gets in, but individuals, empower them that if they want to start up businesses, you have incubating centers that can actually formulate them to be able to create employment not only for themselves, but also for others as well. So I think that's the notion that we are actually working towards, and the Ministry of Trade is championing that with also development through the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Research. Honorable Minister, you wanted to mention?
Yes, I wanted to just buttress on what you are saying for Gambians to understand that the labor market is a bit complex in the Gambia, in the sense that it's not the absence of employment, it's absence of data. Today, currently, nobody can tell me the unemployment rate in this country, because unemployment is measured at the number of people looking for a job at a particular period of time and they are to work. That is how you measure unemployment rate. It's not people who are sitting at home. You are sitting at home, not looking for a job, not ready to work. You are not unemployed in the technical term of, if you technically define unemployment. Now, the government had promised through the labor policy to provide 150,000 jobs. I think if we are not very close to it, we should be achieving that. What is missing is the data. That is why currently there are systems being built to harvest the data. We are going to look at the social security. We are looking at new bank accounts, new companies created. We are harvesting the data to know, based on the policies, how much jobs have been created, both in the private sector, but also in the public sector. And that is important. So the lack of data is the problem. But basically, there are many Gambians who are in a state of waiting to travel. They're not looking for jobs. So they're not unemployed. You cannot count them as unemployed because they don't want to work. And like he said, there are many, today, if you look at most of NAWEC, these diggings, they're bringing foreigners from outside. Today we are building hospitals in it's the Burkina Faso work and the Sierra Leoneans. So, and also the skill sets. There are people here, they're looking for people to employ. They cannot get anybody to employ because they cannot match the skill set. That is why government is investing in skills building. That is why we open Demban. That is why we open Kanila. That is why we open Mansakonko. That is why we open Basse. To make sure we build the skills of young people to go into many different sectors. The green economy is boosting. The blue economy is there. So young people have to go and learn the skills. Because even if investors come to this country, when they want to employ people, they want to employ the right skill set. If you don't get the skill, they cannot employ you. So what is missing is the data. And there is two data. One, how many people are looking for a job on a daily basis? How many people are dropping their CVs? And in terms of the skill set, there's a mismatch between what the industry is looking for and what the labor market is supplying. That is why there should be a kind of a coordination between industry and government and academia. That is training. We provide the training. We do not understand what the labor market wants, not only today, but also in the future. Because it's dynamic. The labor market is dynamic. You can go and train yourself as an accountant today. Before you finish your accountancy 4 years, we are going to AI. So obviously, we need to factor these things in. But like I said, is the data. Right now, we are harvesting. And I think based on the economic policies in fintech, recently you've seen an explosion of fintech companies. They're employing young people. You've seen young people into FATFAT, into logistics. All this should be counted. Once we get this data, we're able to ascertain and determine how much jobs we have created through our very good policies. Thank you.
My question on stable economy. What is your benchmark? And you did mention 100,000 kilometers of roads. Can you provide us with this information?
Of course, there's information out there. In fact, there was a fact check done by the Republic that I made a statement that the government has built 1,000 kilometers of roads. The fact check came out that it was true, that across the country, we have built almost 1,000 kilometers of roads, and we are going to build more 364 kilometers of roads. This was fact check. It was found to be true. However, when it comes to a stable economy, you look at the currency. The currency has somewhat stabilized compared to it's been very resilient. The dollar has stabilized now. GDP is growing. There is growth, for example. You look at these things, and you look at inflation. Core inflation has been stabilizing as well. So obviously, there's a correlation between labor market and stable economy, because when you provide labor, you boost GDP. However, it is not 100% determination. There are countries where the unemployment is going up. However, economic is being stable. What we are saying, we are not seeing hyperinflation in this country. We are not seeing shortages of basic services, essential goods in this country. What we are seeing, the dollar is somewhat stabilizing compared to major currencies that we trade with. That the GDP is growing. So obviously, food essentials have been stabilizing. Our economy is growing. We are not seeing any shortage in the country. So somewhat, compared to the sub-region, our economy is really doing well.
I think maybe let me touch on something that he actually mentioned regarding data. And this is where I would also implore, it's not only government, but the whole country. Because we recently just did a population and housing census. And it was really, really, really tough for people to cooperate with the Gambia Bureau of Statistics to get this data. Right now, we are conducting an economic census. And this is the information that we need. You're talking about fact check. If individuals and people do not participate in this exercise, it becomes extremely difficult for you to be able to use data to make policy. And this is why we want people to actually cooperate with government, i.e. here, the Gambia Bureau of Statistics, so that at least we can have basic data that we can actually use. You're asking him right now in terms of what is the road infrastructure that government has built. The information is there. We're creating platforms that you don't even need to ask him. All you need to go do is actually go to the system and look at exactly what government has done at any point in time. All of these things are actually under construction. One of the things, and I will say it here, that And I'm happy that the Honorable Minister has taken this on board since he took office. The level of things that government is actually doing, government has been very poor in terms of disseminating information. I'll tap him on the back to say that he has actually reduced that extent in terms of, especially with the media, in terms of sharing information. That has not been done for a period of time. There are lots of positive things that government is actually doing, but it's not out there. So the important thing is for us to be able to share this to the general public, to say that this is what we are doing. And we don't mind critiques. You have to criticize for you to know, for the individual or the institution to know that there are certain things that needs to be done. But it has to be positive criticism. Criticism, constructive criticism, not positive. It can be negative, but it has to be a constructive criticism in such a way that at least, yes, when you say that, let's say, for instance, that government needs to reduce the level of taxes, if you look at Gambia in terms of, you all have been in the developed world. You go to the OECD countries, tax to GDP is about 35%. What we have as a regional benchmark is about 16%. In Gambia, tax to GDP in the budget that we have just prepared is 10.7%. So you keep on hearing people say that Gambia is overtaxed, Gambia is overtaxed, Gambia is overtaxed. But our tax level to GDP is less than 11%. And it will even be less than that once we rebase the GDP that we currently have, because the GDP that we currently have is GDP as of 2013. It's been over 10 years we have not rebased our GDP. If you do that same ratio of tax to GDP, you'll be hovering between 7 to 8%, which means that there are still things that we need to do in order for us, because the demand for services is huge. How can you go ahead and do that? You're trying as much as possible to rely on the domestic resources that you are actually mobilizing. And how can you do that? You need to plug the gaps, which we are doing. Plugging the gaps and also looking for other areas within the country that we can leverage to be able to develop this country. So that's the aspect that government is actually doing. But in terms of information, the minister has been doing extremely well in terms of having these regular meetings with the press. Any other question?
Feel free to ask in national languages.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
maa ngi tudd Modou Lamine Diouf maa ngi liggéeyal Hilltop FM radio. Suma njëlbeeni laaj bi dina dem si mbiri agriculture. Joxoñoon nga fa waaye gis nañ ne Department of Livestock in 2023 ak 2024 bi yëpp si budget bi dañ dee allocate pour development because daf dee am two recurrent ak development. 9 million bu ñu allocate on for 2023 ba 2023 jee joxuñ leen si dara use dara 2024 as of August bi ma mujjee waxtaan ak Department of Livestock ak Minister bi of Agriculture the same thing lañ highlight ne boobu balaa nga see jot da nga am pour bid certify fan la moo dugga and in most cases sax duy ñëw at all 2023 ñëwut kon 2024 comme ni ma la ko waxee ba bi ma ko mujjee am ñëwut kàddu bi mujjee woon a mooy yaakaar na ne ministry bi mooy finance ak economic affairs dinañ gën a moderate si nu ñoo suyee xaalis si bunte yooyu because of maybe policy yi ñu am that is one ñaareel bi bëgg si mbiri inflation xëj na suñ ko waxee
mais xam nga même ñu jëlaan ko benn so nga xam ne duñ jaxasoo xam nga wax naa jërëjëf ci sa laajte bi xam nga wax naa ne at bii fu mu nekk dañ jarankonteel ak problèmes yu bari du ma ne problèmes yu bari sax parce que àdduna si yëpp mu ngi lëmee ak jafe-jafe am na yoo xam ne xew na fii nii loo xam ne dañ am pour reprioritize mooy OIC bi luñ yaakaaroon ne nañ ko am amuñ ko woon ñu am pour reprioritize within ci suñ budget bi foofu noonu lu ma bëgg a wax tamit mooy ne ñu bari dañ dee wax ne Ministry of Finance duy joxe xaalis weer bu nekk lu jiyaaree di isi suñ xasee ba génnee lu ñoo fay nit ñi suñ xasee ba génnee bor yu ñu amee lu ñu leen di fay lu si des yëpp dañ koo tasaare si secteur si ku nekk nañ la compal tuuti ku nekk nañ la jox astuce so yow fu mu nekk léegi ministre bi si boppam moom mooy seet lu ma Ministry of Finance jox lan mooy si suma priorité loo xam ne soxla naa ko pour def ko pour si secteur bu ma nekk comme que yaa ngi ekkati wax yi agriculture lu tuuti lu maa jox agriculture loolu laa yaakaar ne Ministry of Agriculture dina ko jël xool saytu fu mu nekk fan la jafe-jafe am o lan nga gaay am si seen policy si ba pare def ko fa duñ mun a jox ñëpp lépp parce que amuñ lépp so luñ mun a joxe mooy luñ astuce buñ amee luñ dajale fu mu nekk lu jiyaaree liggéey yeneen ministres yi ñoo xam ne day revenue generating ministries luñ dajale ñu jël ko def ko si kees gi fay nit ñi seen salary fay bor yuñ am ba pare lu des foofu noonu ñu jël ko tasaare ko si ministre bu nekk noonu la budget bi di doxee waa di nga dégg nag ne waa ministre of finance joxuñu xaalis amul benn ministre boo xam ne dina dem weer te joxuñ ko dara ministre bu nekk nañ jël lu mu bon teg dara si sa loxo di nga ne nag ndax lu ñu leen di jox doy na te foofu laa wax ne mosut a doy parce que problème si nit ñi di jànkanteel bis bu nekk bari boo xam ne amuñ loolu tax fu mu nekk ñu ngi def lu ñoo ooyee domestic resource mobilisation assessment pour seet fu mu nekk si dëkk bi yëpp fu mu nekk fan la ñoo mun a saytoo fu ne pour mun a am xaalis boo xam ne dinañ ko mun a am pour pare mun a dimbale nit ñi si jafe-jafe yi ñoo jànkoonteel mun ngaa dem si sa ñaareeli laajte bi.
suma ñaareeli laajte bi ba léegi si mbiri agriculture bi la mooy ne suñ xoolee minister of finance waxoon na ne daanaka Gambia daf di dugal $1 billion pour subsidize fertilizer bi ak faatna boobu noonu tey ñun at bu nekk dañ dee import xar ak béy pour su Tabaski di waaj a jot even though am nañ di small ruminant project but gisaguñ impact bi noonu ba nga xamante dina mun a solve that problem naka lañ dee prioritiser fan lan la ñoo subsidize ak lan lañ dut because xar yi ñu ngi koo import still te mu ngi nekk jafe-jafe waaye su ñu ngi am billion boo xamante ne mu ngi dugal si fertilizer naka lañ mun a leeralee faatna boobu.
xam naa li nga wax foofu noonu xëy na tamit nañ soxla ndimbal si mooy yow tudda nga ko léegi nii ay small ruminant bon yii yëpp dañ tàmbale luñ tàmbale yàggut so dina jël time ba nga xam ne di impact di nga ko doole bi di nga ko yëg yu ñoo subsidize fu mu nekk du fertilizer rek ñu ngi subsidize fertilizer ñu ngi subsidize naka tuddaati sa groundnut naka selling price bi soo bàyyee xel fu mu nekk président bi wax na ne fu mu nekk maa ngi dégg ñu ngi wax ne waa président bi lu tax yokku ko 38,000 boobu noonu wante soo demee next door Sénégal mu ngi jaayee $35,075 loolu laa fay farmers am yi even though président bi yokku ko wante level bu mu nekk right now 38,000 bu ñu moon defoon last year this year it's still better moo gën lanaa nekk si suñ next door te ñun suñ yéene mooy képp koo xam ne mu ngi jaay gerte si biir dëkk bi sa gerte gi ñu jënd ko te price bu ñu ko jëndee mooy fanweeri junne ak juróom-ñetti fanweer ak juróom-ñetti junne loolu lañ ko bëgg a jëndee so am na jafe-jafe yu bari.
60% of the population live in urban Gambia, but urban Gambia was not built to house 60% of the population. In terms of housing, in terms of water, in terms of road infrastructure, in terms of electricity. moo tax mu explode at the same time. So lii dañ ko inherit moo tax léegi lañ start def jéego yoo xam ne ñu ngi xalaat di future moo tax ñu ngi leen a wax ne within the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years now with the policies yi ñoo jël most of this plan ko solve comme noo ko waxee rek port bi ñu ngi ko expand Banjul ñu ngi build a deep sea port within 2, 3, 4, 5 years congestion na wàññeeku suba noonu la wàññeeku water infrastructure noonu la government day woogee so most of these failures are inherited from the previous government because government noonu la di xalaatee moo tax dañuy wax ne every government in every jamono yaa liggéey for the next generation société America ak yeneen dëkk most of seen policies yi yëpp tey it's not for today they have been doing it for the next because moo tax data dafa important si lu moo wax jox ma compi la si boobu rek ba pare CFA bi tamit nekkul ne Gambie Sénégal rek ko reduce de most countries in the sub-region and lu nga ko waxee expect to the euro moo tax mu am advantage over the dalasi te nu nga ko waxee expect Gambia ñu nañ peg suñ duñ dee we limit dañ ko float mooy ne depends on demand and supply moo dee affect currency bi thank you.
ñu ngi ma remind ne CFA account bi si ferries and the fact that ñu ngi use CFA si suñ géej bi pour jënd fa jën loolu man dem naa bi foofu te jokkoo naa si sax ak nguur gi pour wax leen ne léegi jën bu baax su génnee dañoo préfère pour jaay ko si CFA dan ñu jaay ko si dalasi si biir réew mi fii nii xaw ma naka nga jàngatee loolu ak the fact ne we have CFA account si ferry bi tamit.
waaw loolu nga xam nga tamit nguur gu nekk dafa am yenn yu moo seet pour la nu moo rataxalee digganteem ak dëkkandoor and si yooyu si rataxal digganteem bi ak suñ dëkkandoor rek la soo fu nga dikka right now du càggee ne di sa dëkkandoor di yëpp xëy na di nga am mango boo xam ne guy mango buggee duggee daanu sa kër te doo ko jël jox ko ko am na yoo xam ne ñu ngi koo def pour déem a rataxal suñ diggante ak suñ dëkkandoor la rek te yooyu tamit mu ngi ñoo dimbale si yu bari so man foofu noonu tontu boobu noonu loolu la laajte boobu noonu loolu laa koo mën a tontu yëpp pour rataxal suñ diggante sa dëkkandoor koo xam ne daal mënuloo ba ilaa yow mi diin xam nga sa dëkkandoor fi nga dikka right now sax su la yàlla mayee as tuus xëy na di nga bëgg a ñëw dikka feleen dem jëndi kër feleen soo mun ngaa bàyyi sa dëkkandoor wante bii dëkkandoor boo xam ne ba ilaa yow mi diin la soo foog nga def loo xam ne dina rataxal diggante bi te yii yëpp si rataxal diggante bi la bokk.
yaa maa ngi tudd Abdoulaye Korkaba di represent QTV ak France 24 lu ma laajte mooy si nekkee ne wax nga ne ñu ngi rataxal diggante bi das mean ne one side la nekkee as a Gambian wala a government official man dama surprise trop pour nga ne dañoo raxatal diggante bi te one side la foo naa rataxal si waree am dafa war a nekk both side soo seetee according to census ñu ngi amee more than 40,000 Senegalese te amuñ that amount of Gambians in Senegal su nekkee rataxal diggante la dafa war a nekk both side even soo amee benn $50 nga cross ak moom Sénégal soo buggee jënd dara even karam dañoo wax ne foog mu nekk CFA soo waxee ne dañoo rataxal diggante bi te one side la moo nekk especially when it come to currency dafa métti torop nga ñëw ba suñ own dëkk si own terminal nga war a jënda ticket pour sa moto bi in CFA boobu noonu rataxal boobu noonu doo ko mun a am seen pont yi Sénégal soo dee cross you pay in you don't even pay in dollar or euro you pay in CFA soo ko amutee dañoo wax ne demal fale nga wécci ko soo foog naa rataxal bi dafa war a nekk both side.
waaw xaaral ma tontu si loolu noonu you're absolutely right rataxal bi dafa war a nekk ñu ne laxo kajoor day weesalante so lu kii def da kële daf ko war a def wante yow yaa ngi koo xoolee from the perspective of that aspect rek am na yeneen yoo xam ne ñu ngi koo jàkkaarloon Sénégal yoo xam ne xëj na si ay diiri jamono honorable minister bi dina si laal bu ko xoolee ne fu mu nekk ne waaw si xaalis bu maa jël nii fii nii rek moom war naa jël xaalis boobu noonu tamit su ma demee suma dalasi bi def loolu am na yeneen jéego yoo xam ne suñ diggante Sénégal ñu ngi koo jànkoonte soo gisee ma rataxal diggante bi si fànn yooyu noonu laay waxee xëy na sax fu mu nekkat fu ma toll nii mënu ma see dugal mënu ma see xóot wante xam naa si digg jamono ministre bi dina si wax jërëjëf.
ma yokkal la foofu rek mooy ne port bi nekku ne by force la nga war a use CFA option la rek ban port.
ay gëstu yu leer ma dem laajte lan moo tax bi ko dama ànda journaliste boo xamante ne sénégalais la mu ñëw ak moto sénégalais biñ demee pour fay ma génnee dalasi ñu ne mënumaa fay dalasi si féeri bi foofu ma laajte lan moo tax ñu ne si jëmmi jamono sénégalais suñ ñëwaan ak seen moto dañ daan joxe léegi CFA suñ ko joxee ñi liggéey si féeri bi dañoo dem wecci ko dalasi so that exchange rate bi daf dee am little difference bi fa dee nekk waaye xaalis boobu duy ñëw si poosi nguur daf dee dugga si poosi ñi fa nekk so buñ xoolee gis ne li dee génna di dugga si poosi ñeneen te dugut si poosi nguur daf dee xala sakkan den ñoom ñu ñëw ak policy ne léegi number plate yi Sénégal su ñëwatee bu mu fay dalasi na fay si CFA so that ñoom ñu mun a maintain yëpp as a government nga xam ne amul tuuti bi ñëw si government leneen lu des si exchange rate bi dem si lii la gaay wax
loolu strange na trop foog naa dañ find out loolu noonu baba lu ma xam mooy ne comme lu nekk airport security port rek the same thing soo amee euro nga fay si euro or the equivalent of dalasi or dollar foog naa man loolu moo war a but dinañ find out su dee loolu la dafa strange warta am war ngaa mën a fay si dalasi or si CFA soo ko amee ba waruñoo mën a impose na danga war a fay CFA but dinañ find out loolu noonu thank you.
Good morning. My question will go to the Honorable Minister. Yes. So my name is Lolly M. Kamara, QTV. You've touched partly on the question that I wanted to ask, which is the electricity. Now I want to know, because the government is really planning, to mitigate some of these challenges. You've said that like long time ago that has not happened, so you want to strategize. But I want to know some of the measures that you're trying to consider to put in long-term measures to, at least put an end to these power outages in the country. And also, how is the government considering to work with the private sector in trying to boost, development and reliability, efficiency?
Of electricity.
Yes.
Now, obviously, what we are doing is to move away from of heavy fuel. Before it was generators mostly. You've seen government now, there's a policy going into green energy. We have built 20 megawatts almost in Jambur. We've commissioned 150 megawatts in Soma. It means we are going green now. We are going to solar power. We are going also into PPAs now mostly as part of the electricity roadmap. That is, it means how the private sector comes in is that generation can be given to the private sector if you want. Come with a proposal like the one in Soma. It's a PPA, power purchase agreement. You come and you invest, or government can find investment for you. You build 150 megawatts and you sell to the grid. That is the way forward. Because we need to, because it's not about also in terms of generation. The problem is also transmission and distribution. That is why we're investing in the grid. You can generate enough energy, but if you cannot transmit it and distribute it, it's useless. So that is why we're investing in both. And that is why there has been reforms taking place now within the energy sector, that we are not only going to focus on the generator 5, generator 6, no. We are going green now. And very soon, generators will not be a problem. 150 megawatts in Soma, it's almost starting now. We are starting with 50 and we'll scale it up to 150. 23 megawatts in Jambur. We are also engaging private sector to engage in a PPP agreement. But also investing in the grid. There's a lot of EU and Chinese funds to modernize the grid. So that, because currently the system loss means that when you generate power from source, before it reaches your home, we lost almost 20% because of the pair, because it's old. But we are fixing those system losses so that government doesn't lose money. Like you said, $20 million was spent on NAWEC so that our prices don't go up, because NAWEC is losing because of that. So these are the measures that we are taking. That is going green, investing more into green energy, and also inviting the private sector into PPP agreement.
Maybe let me touch on a bit on NAWEC as well. I think the Honorable Minister has said it all in terms of NAWEC. I think NAWEC is the most topical issue in the country, especially when I hope it doesn't go off right now. But I think we also have to understand the context in which NAWEC is. And that's some of the things that he's alluded to. It's similar to the port. We've seen generators that have come here, but the generators have not done well. And that's the reason why we are going green. Not only going green in the sense of using solar, but we are also working through the OMVG, where you have the dam from Guinea coming and serving and supplying electricity. We've done 23 megawatts in Jambur. We are looking at even upscaling that 23 megawatts. Currently, there is a tender that will be closing very soon of 50 megawatts for Soma. The idea is to do another 100 megawatts after that. Within the next 3 to 5 years, the idea is not only to provide electricity, sustainable electricity, but to provide sustainable and also cheap electricity within the country and also export. That's the reason why we are doing the 150 megawatts in the coming years. The 50 megawatts is tender, will close soon, I believe, if not already closed. Yes, but we are doing a tender of 100 megawatts that will actually supplement. So you have the 100 and the 50 plus the 23 that will eventually upscale to maybe 50. The idea is to diversify energy, to have an energy mix. You have small of thermal, because you also need what we call a base load. You cannot just say that you're going to do a solar. You have to have a base load that others are actually relying on. And like you mentioned, the transmission and distribution lines have been there for a while. And that's the reason why you see most of our homes are encountering what we call low voltage. Maybe you have your fridge is not cooling or your AC is not functioning to the level, or you see the lights actually dimming. These are all because of the transmission and distribution network. We are losing close to 20% of anything that is generating through the loss in terms of transmission and distribution, obsolete transmission and distribution lines. And these are all things that require resources that government is actually investing in those areas to modernize the infrastructure. We have a lot of development partners that are actually helping us, the World Bank, the EU, the EIB. So we have all of these, the MCC. So all of these partners are working together for us to be able to resolve the issue. So I know it is very frustrating, but we are hoping that within a very short period of time, we'll see massive improvements in NAWEC. Thank you.
Last question. Last question? Okay, that's fine.
Flex. What's our last question? The last question.
For you. Okay. Thank you very much for responding to our questions. And also, I must say, all throughout the year, having these press conferences, definitely, we thank you for that. But my last question is about the 23% increase in taxes. You mentioned about taxes, how Gambia is doing very well on taxes compared to other countries, and that, when you check it to the GDP, etc., very technical terms for many of us who don't understand. But my question is that in the minister's speech, he mentioned that they would increase taxes by 23%. So
go ahead.
my question is, can you provide us more details about this? How is that being done? Because of every single year, finance minister never brings the tax plans of the government in the budget or during this session so that we can know what's going on. We only see it in the budget speech. Give us some information, sir. Tell us about this tax that you are increasing, 23% next year.
No, maybe what people don't, I would not want to disclose some of the issues that we have in the budget speech, because that's the prerogative of the Honorable Minister, which will be done on Friday. But it is not increasing tax rates. You are looking at tax revenue increment. This is because we are trying, like I mentioned earlier, we are trying to plug holes. Where we are seeing leakage, we are plugging holes. And that, once you plug that hole, it brings you additional resources. And that's exactly what we are working towards. We are trying to plug holes. And like I mentioned, we are also almost completing the domestic resource mobilization strategy that looks at areas where we have untapped areas that government can actually leverage upon to be able to mobilize additional resources for development projects. But mostly we are trying to be efficient in terms of the way. You realize, you see that GRA has been doing a lot of digitalization, or government in its entirety. These are all efforts geared towards additional resource mobilization. There was an audit report that looked at how much government, the amount that hospitals were actually collecting. For instance, maybe RVTH, they were collecting about 1-point-something million. When we actually took a bank to it, they collected almost 200-300% what they were collecting. So all of these things, within the next couple of years, you will see a lot of digitalization. Government, before what you used to have, you go to any ministry and start paying the accountants. We are not going through that route. Government is going digital in the coming years. All of these things are, you're going to go to banks, you pay there, you take the receipt and take it to the government institution for these services to be rendered. We are also working on a digital platform. Maybe if you go to Rwanda, they have what is called Irembo. Every service you need, you sit at your home, at the comfort of your home, and request for that service. You need ID card, you need your ID card, you need a passport, you need insurance. You can do it at the comfort of your home. And this is what government is actually working towards. The Ministry of Public Service Reform is working towards that. And this is all to what make life less tasking for the citizenry. This is why I'm saying that I'm happy, I'm glad that the Honorable Minister has taken this upon and is actually driving it. There is a lot of information out there within government that the public needs to know, and he's championing that. So all of these things are towards that. The taxes you're talking about, these are the things that we are plugging. Once you plug that, additional resources that we are supposed to come to government will come to government. So that's the idea. In terms of increasing tax rate, we have been very mindful not to increase tax rates.
Can I push back on that? That is not what the facts show. Every single year, there is a section in the budget speech where revenue measures. Yes. And you increase taxes every year. I'll give you sin taxes, alcohol, cigarettes, environmental taxes, numerous taxes. They are there every single year. I read your budget speech. Tell us what you are going to increase this year coming, sir.
But that's what you mentioned. You're mentioning what? Sin taxes. You want to tell me that you are anti-imposition of sin taxes?
To a level?
Flex.
To a level?
You are the same person that is saying when it comes to hospitals, people are, but you are doing that, for instance, to be able to curb the people going for tobacco treatments and the like. That's the reason. If you were telling me that I was going to increase the tax on rice, I would say yes. That would be counterproductive and would not help in poverty reduction. But if you tell me that if I were to increase sin tax, we shouldn't do that. But these are all geared towards actually reducing the extent to which people go to the hospital for tobacco treatment. You mentioned alcohol. It's the same thing.
Flour. last year.
No, but why we did that was also to help the flour industry that we had in the country.
Are increasing taxes on them?
No, we are increasing taxes on imported ones. That's what we did, to be able to help the flour industry that we had domestically, so that at least we will be able to contain the price increment of bread.
Question. I'll have two questions. It's two misinformations that have been peddling around, and I'd like you to clarify those misinformations. I'm not sure if this mic is working. All right. One misinformation was peddled around by one. Mentioned that as part of the Africa 50 concession agreement, there's an exclusivity clause which says that nobody can build a bridge along the River Gambia for the next 15 to 20 years. We want you to clarify that for us. The agreement is out, it's a public document. The second misinformation is peddled by the party leader of UDP, Lawyer Ousainou Darboe, saying that the president consumes $150,000 a day as his departs at State House. Can you also make clarification to that as well? Those two misleading information, we'd like to clarify those. Thank you.
Just bear with me just a second.
Perhaps you can share the agreement with us, sir.
Yes, please.
The agreement is online.
We're looking for it, we haven't found.
No, it's online. You go online, you'll find the concession agreement. You'll have that there. But you're addressing the first question, that we should not build any other bridge infrastructure on the River Gambia within the next 15 years. What the agreement stipulates that within the radius of 50 kilometers, we cannot build a bridge, because this is an arrangement that government is also benefiting from. Government has 12.5% stake in the SPV that has been created. And the partner that we are dealing has 87.5%. You also don't want to build something that would actually undermine the revenue generation that eventually comes to government. So it stipulates that within a radius of 50 kilometers, until they recover the investment that they have, either 15 years, within the 15 years, or within a space of the 25 years, you cannot build a bridge there. A competing bridge that would actually undermine the revenue generation of the SPV. So that's what the agreement says.
And that excludes the Banjul Bara?
No, that excludes the Banjul Bara. If we had resources right now to build the Banjul Bara today, we'll build it. Yes. In terms of, that is the 150,000 a day. No, what we even give the Office of the President on a monthly basis for upkeep is far less than that. I would not want to go into the details, but it's far less than that. Far less than that. $150,000 is per day. That presupposes you are looking at almost 4 million on a monthly basis. That's no, no, but you have it in the budget. No. That I would leave for the secretary, an honourable minister for presidential affairs too. But that information is not accurate. That I can say.
Thank you very
humbly.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think what the Office of the President consumes a day is less than $35,000. The $4 million includes banquets, state banquets when they do happen, state receptions, and hosting of official delegates. All this is part of it. And remember, the Office of the President is huge. People forget that the OVP is part of the Office of the President. Even if you look at the budget, OVP don't have their own budget. It's part of so any budget within OVP and its subsidiary agencies are covered, like the NDMA, like the NANA, like all these things are all covered as part of that budget. The State Guard Battalion in the State House is covered. People have to understand that. So when people go around to say OP is eating this, no. It includes OP, OVP, even the Meet the People store. They are saying 50 million. It's for 2 Meet the People store. The constituency says at least once. So we cater for 2. And it's been reduced to 40. So 2020, nothing has changed there. People say 200 million for entertainment. Independence is coming. 60 years Gambia. That is included in it. So people need to understand these things and context. We cannot just send figures out and start to mislead the public. And like as our office is open, whenever you need information, ask us and we'll provide that information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. On that note, you talk about the Gambia at 60, and then we are celebrating 60 years next year already. Preparations in stage. We'll update you subsequently on the arrangements, and I'm glad to be part of that committee working on the media and advocacy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me just
Would you like to update something? Yeah.
Let me just buttress. I think that is the information that goes out there, especially within the confines of the budget. I think it doesn't flesh out all the institutions that are within the office of the president. And I think that is also a disservice. And that's why when you see increment, you think that these are all things that are consumed by the office of the president. That is not the case. In the office of the president, you have office of the president and also office of the national security. You come to office of the vice president, that falls under the budget of office of the president. You have the office of the vice president, you have the National Aid Secretariat, you have the National Council for Civic Education, you have the State Intelligence Agency, you have Food Safety and Quality Authority, you have National Disaster Management Agency, you have National Nutrition Agency, you have National Population Commission, you have National Center for Coordination of Early Warning, you have the Social Protection Secretariat. All of these institutions are under the office of the president. So if you look at the office of the president and you see a budget and you think that, okay, all of those resources are being consumed by the office of the president, that's not it. So you have all of these institutions that have staff there, that are paid personal emoluments, that have staff that have to perform specific activities. So I think that is the clarification that I wanted to add to you, what you said. Thank you.
I think they should just see it as another big ministry. Like every ministry, they have their agencies and parastatals. And we would like to transition to GICTA. We invite the Director General, Dr. Abdulkarim Jallow. Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Good morning. It is a great pleasure to be with you here today. I want to thank the Honorable Minister for Information, Media and Broadcasting Services for giving us the opportunity to be with you here. And I also recognize the presence of the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance, Mr. Babukar Job, who actually is a board member of the Gambia ICT agency, that is GICTA. I was a little bit scared that he would be here and some of the things that I would be saying, but thank God he's gone. That's just a joke. And Honorable Minister, I want to take the opportunity to thank you for all that you have done whilst you were overseeing the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. So many people did not know, but during that time, sometimes I would sit down and say, I don't know how this Honorable Minister is able to do this, right? Because so many times, even on Saturday, you would be in the office, and sometimes people close at 4, and you would be in the office until late in the evening. So thank you very much for your guidance that you have done during your overseeing period. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank His Excellency the President for appointing a new minister, and he has started very well. I am Professor Abdulkarim Jallow, the Director General of the Gambia ICT Agency. Maybe what I will do, I know I have about maybe 10 minutes to do my presentation, but what I would want to do is to give you an overview of what the agency is. The agency is established by an act of the National Assembly in 2019. And it operates under the purview of the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, but it is responsible for implementation of ICT projects and systems across the government. In doing that, it is to coordinate, promote, and monitor all ICT projects and systems, and it is also to lead in the implementation of the Gambia's e-government plan. The agency is governed by a board of directors, and as I said, the permanent secretary, Mr. Job, who just left, is one of those board directors. Now, I just want to give you a quick snapshot of why the Gambia ICT Agency is established, because I think it is important that the public know about the rationale why the agency is created. But before I do that, I also want to thank the government under the leadership of His Excellency President Adama Barrow for decoupling the Ministry of Information and Communications Infrastructure to create a standalone Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy to be purely responsible for ICT and to drive the digital economy. I think that is a clear manifestation of how committed the government is in terms of digitization in our country, which the Honorable Minister mentioned at the beginning of his speech. And also for the creation of the Gambia ICT Agency to be the implementing arm of the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. Now, why was GICTA established? One, there was absence of proper coordination of ICT projects. What that means is that every ministry, department, and agency would go ahead and design, develop, and implement their own information systems without any one institution that was responsible to coordinate that design, development, and implementation across the government. And two, there is or was lack of standardization in terms of the hardware and software that we use in the design and development and operationalization of our ICT systems. And number three, there has been fragmentation in terms of how those systems are designed, developed, and also operationalized. As a result of that fragmentation, it created integration challenges, right? That means that the different systems that we have in the government or in the public sector are not integrated to be able to share and exchange information, which is very important to inform government in terms of decision making. The Honorable Minister was talking about lack of data, right? Because currently in the digital world, you need to have enough data, facts, right? Empirical evidences to be able to make informed decisions. But when you have your government systems that are not integrated to be able to share and exchange information, it becomes very difficult for you to be able to have the informed and the data that you need to be able to make informed and scientific decisions, right? And number five, there was lack of sustainability of the systems that were designed and implemented in government, right? Some of these systems are designed projects that were funded by donor agencies. And as a result, when the donor funds are exhausted, I mean, it becomes difficult to be able to maintain, sustain those systems. In addition, there was also lack of capacity in terms of IT to be able to help in the operationalization of those systems. So as a result, it was thought necessary to create an agency that will be responsible for the coordination of all these ICT systems in the government, so that at least we avoid fragmentation of the systems, we avoid silos implementation of systems, and we try to create standards that will support integration and interoperability of our systems across the government. Now, for the Gambia ICT Agency, we looked at the mandate of the agency. We looked at the digitalization agenda of the country, and we were able to develop a vision, which is to have a digitally integrated smart government and nation. What that means is we want to be sure that our government is going to be smart in terms of how it executes its processes, how it provides services to the people. In other words, that is to digitize the entire public sector, so that people will be able to be able to interact with the government in an electronic manner. Now, I just want to touch on quickly on the objectives that are the mandate of the agency. One, the agency is to enhance government services, right? How do we provide government services to the people? P.S. Job talked about, for example, how people should be able to access government services like apply for your passport, ID card, at the comfort of your home. This is to enhance the delivery of government services and to make sure that the government is able to transition into an e-government environment, right? Because we live in a digital world. The other mandate that we have is also to empower people and businesses, right? If you are able to digitize your government services, you are able to provide digital tools. For example, the PS was talking about how we can automate electronic payment, right? The payment that we do, for example, when you go to get government services, when you go to get passport, the payments that you do, ID cards. There are plans to automate all those payments so that there is no physical cash payment in any government agency or sector where payment is required for you to be able to get services. So this is going to help us to be able to provide or empower people and empower businesses, because it will help to at least drive the digital economy, to drive e-commerce and the like. The other objectives is to promote standardization so that at least the systems that we are going to use in the government, there will be standardization. There will be guidelines that will guide those people who will design and implement the systems to know that there are standards that you have to follow. This is going to help us in terms of sustainability of the system, and it is going to help us to be more cost efficient and effective in the way that we design and provide our services. Another objective is also to help us to provide uniformity in ICT usage. For example, if you want to implement a time attendance system across the government, it is not necessary for every department and agency to have different type of systems for time attendance. This is one government. It is important that we have uniformity across all MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies in terms of the type of tools, equipment, and systems that we use, at least so that there is uniformity, which is much better in terms of maintenance and sustainability, because you don't have to train different people for the different types of equipment and systems that are used. Another objective of this agency in terms of digitalization is to conduct research to bring about innovation, and we will be doing this in collaboration with the Ministries of Education, especially the higher education, University of Gambia, and other universities that are conducting research, so that at least we will not be left behind. We will be in a position to be able to innovate in terms of ICT usage in the country. Local content and application development is also another important objective that this agency is tasked with or mandated with. That is, how do we create our own local content, right? How do we ensure that the local businesses that we have in the country in the area of ICT are able to help and lead, right, in the design and development of systems, instead of moving outside or going outside or relying on outsiders to be developing our systems. We have a very good pool of ICT service providers here in the country who are capable to be able to design, develop, and implement ICT systems in the country. In fact, the agency, Gambia ICT Agency, GICTA, we did a familiarization tour of all the ICT application developers in the country. I think we have only 2 that we have not yet visited. But so far, the ones that we have visited, it is really impressive to know, to see at first hand and know the capacity that they have and what they are able to design and develop. So the agency is tasked by ensuring that we encourage the participation of the local ICT businesses in the design and development of ICT systems in the country. Now, I just want to touch on some of the things that we have been doing so far. For example, number 1, we, as a new agency, we started operations in about 1 year, 4 months, because I was appointed in August 2023 to start the agency. And it's not been an easy task to start an agency, a government agency, from ground zero. But today, the operationalization is going very well. We have been able to recruit our first batch of employees, staff, and I have amongst them here the Manager for Data and Application Services, Mr. Maseba, who is leading all issues relating to data and applications design and implementation in the public sector. And we have Mr. Jibril Jallo, who is the Manager for Human Resources and Administration, helping us in terms of hiring talents to the agency. And we also have Mr. Yankuba Jaite, who is the technical manager for the .gm redelegation process in the Gambia. So our operationalization is going on very well. And we have our offices just next to the Sukuta Jaban traffic light if you're coming from the turntable on the right-hand side. So if you have anything that you think you can share with us or you want us to collaborate and work on in the area of information and communication technology, digitalization across the public sector or in other areas, you can feel free to come to our premises. The other thing that we have also been looking at is the top-level domain redelegation of the Gambia. For some of you may know that the top-level domain, which is .gm, for example, if you have your website, you say abdukarim.gm, that domain administration is currently done outside of the Gambia by somebody else. And the government had been working very hard to get that redelegated back to the country, right, due to so many reasons. And I can tell you efforts are very high up. That is why we hired Mr. Yankuba Jaite, who is a very experienced infrastructure guy. He had a lot of experience working at Gamtel as a manager and other institutions, and we have started the process of redelegation. After so many years, the previous government was not able to get that redelegation done. And this government, with the establishment of the ICT agency and the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, is working very hard to ensure that the redelegation is done as quickly as possible. We are also working on the development of a government-wide enterprise architecture for the first time in the history of the Gambia and for the first time in the digitalization activities and agenda of this country. We are going to have an enterprise architecture which is going to serve as the digitalization blueprint of the Gambia. It is going to be able to help inform people, provide guidelines, standards in terms of how we design, implement, and operationalize ICT systems, which is going to be a big U-turn in terms of how we digitalize our services across the government. So many other countries have an enterprise-wide architecture, such as Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and the like, but Gambia had never had one, and we have just started working on one. And we are doing this in collaboration with ITU, International Telecommunications Union. They have a unit called the GovStack, Government Stack. And we are hoping that within the next six months, we should be able to have the prototype of the enterprise-wide enterprise architecture for the Gambia. We are also working on digitalization of priority digital services. Now, very soon, Gambians will start using digital services to access government services for the first time in the history of this country, right? Very soon, the Sarahules that live in Basse, okay, Sankano and the others, will be at the comfort of their homes in Basse or anywhere in the country, and you can apply for a passport. You can apply for an ID card. You can apply for a driver's license. You can apply for business registration, and you can also apply for birth certificates. We are doing this in collaboration with Bangladesh. They have what you call MyGov, which they use in Bangladesh, and we are replicating that here in the Gambia to be able to develop these services. And we are doing this in collaboration with the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, who are doing the project management with the Bangladeshi. So this is going to be a real game changer in the Gambia, so that you can be at the comfort of your home. And those 5 services are just the pilot. Once we are successful in that pilot, we will be moving on to put together so many other services. We are thinking about developing, for example, an open data platform, a government data bank, so that, as Honorable Minister was saying, so that you can go to that open data platform and get the data that you want, publicly available data that you will be needing. We are having proposals to be able to digitize land management in the Gambia. We all know land management is a big problem in this country, to be able to provide those type of digital services. And we are also working on things like providing electronic visa, so that people coming to the Gambia would be able to apply for a visa online. Now, I think these are going to be really a big game changer in the way that government is going to provide its services to the general public. We are also working on a project that is called Digital Public Service Gaps Analysis. There are a number of digital tools that different government services have implemented currently. For example, if you look at the single window, the electronic civil registration system, national health insurance system, just to name a few of them. But we want to look at all these digital services that government is providing in order to analyze them, to investigate, analyze, and identify any challenges, identify what are some of their functionality gaps, so that we'll be able to put together measures to improve those digital services, and also to be able to identify new digital services or digital tools that we can implement to provide better services for the people in the Gambia, and even those abroad who would want to get access to government services. We are also working on developing guidelines and standards so that any ICT application developer, both MDAs and local private developers that want to develop tools, digital tools and systems for the government, you will be able to access these guidelines and standards that will be able to guide you in terms of how you design and implement your services. The reason why these are important is to ensure that any system that is going to be developing for the use in the government services is going to embed integration and interoperability. I mean, for example, to be able to consider how you can design and expose your APIs, right? So that other systems can also be able to tap and integrate with your systems. I think those guidelines and standards will be very useful to help in supporting integration and interoperability. And we are also investigating other infrastructure and system needs. For example, we are looking at how can we improve the services that are provided by the data center that we have currently. And the Honorable Minister knows very well. Yes. That's what we want. Okay. Sorry. Can somebody come here? Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry about that. The Honorable Minister knows when he was overseeing, there was a lot of concerns and interest in the development of a more advanced data center. And again, thank you very much for the efforts that you have done with some of our development partners to help us to put together proposals. And I can tell you those are now moving forward. And hopefully we'll be able to get a more advanced data center in the Gambia. Now, in terms of difficulties, as a new agency, we have to appreciate the fact that change is not easy, right? We are working on ensuring that the transition to the Gambia ICT Agency in terms of activities and in terms of getting the buy-in of the various ministries, departments, and agencies is also going very well, because it is not easy to start a new agency and start twisting people's hand immediately, right? To say, hey, you need to change, you need to stop doing this, you need to stop doing this. It is a gradual process, despite the challenges, but there is hope that people ministry, departments, agencies are beginning to really collaborate. For example, just so that you know, and the general public, and even the ministries, departments, and agencies know, we did a sensitization forum where we basically called the government machinery. We were able to get permanent secretaries, deputy permanent secretaries, and heads of government institutions here at the Sadauda Kairaba Conference Center on a whole day sensitization forum. Even the former Secretary General was in attendance for the whole day, where we were able to sensitize the officials, top officials, in terms of the mandate of the agency. One very important mandate, which is very crucial, is that all ministries, department, and agency, basically no ministry, department, or agency should implement any ICT system without coming to GICTA, that is the Gambia ICT Agency. And the reason for that is so that we are able to understand your business case, understand why do you need that system, so that if there is another system that is already used somewhere in government, instead of you having to develop that system, we can see how your agency or department can also use the system that is already in place. That is going to help in terms of harmonization and to avoid duplication, right? And to ensure that we are judiciously using the mega resources of the little resources that we have in government. So I think I can take this opportunity and pass on that message to all ministries, departments, and agencies, and even local ICT providers to remember that before you do anything with any government agency in terms of development of any ICT system, there is the need for you to get approval from the agency, where we will look at your specifications and be able to advise you in terms of how you design and implement that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DG. As I was jokingly saying, I'm tired of this combo stress life. I can't wait to go in my village. We'll be working from there. I go to the farm in the morning and after do all my services remotely and send it to whoever. Thank you so much for that brilliant, elaboration on our digital journey. The floor is now open for questions. Again, both your name and then your media organization.
jërëjëf maa ngi tudd Modou Lamine Diouf once again maa ngi liggéey Hilltop FM radio bëggoon naa pour ñu xool mbiri timeline wax nga yu bari yi nga xamante ne fas ngeen ko yéene def waaye dégguma nga tënka ko ci waxtu ne from this period to this period lii lañ bëgg a achieve so GM bi .gm foofu bëgg naa fa taxaw yaa ngi wax ne fu mu nekk ñu ngi xool naka la ko réew mi di naka la moo nekkee si loxo réew mi because as we speak nekkul si loxo réew mi bëgg nañoo xam tam loolu how soon loolu di am benn xaw ma dama continuer suma ñetti question yëpp
no, just one. First you are speaking in Wolof, assuming I can speak Wolof, right? Okay. I'll try. Thank you. Mbiri .gm bi dafa nekk loo xam ne dafa xara naxari affaire because .gm dafa am benn bunta boo xam ne bunti àdduna bi la mu ngi tudd ICANN ñoo yore mbiri .gm te dundee bugga nguur dugal seen loxo si loolu bu baax parce que lu gaay dee foog mooy ne nguur bi suñ si dugalee seen loxo bu baax mun nañ ko use at their advantage ñu deny the other stakeholders ñeneen ñu bokk si mbiri .gm bi so loolu moo tax li si gën a bari ICANN den dee bugga private sector or a community di responsible pour .gm bi waaye nguur bi dafa gis ne .gm bi dafa important trop because .gm moo identify Gambia on the internet pour loolu war a nekk si loxo keneen si biti nekkut loo xam ne lu baax la loolu moo tax nguur bi through suñ agency bi Gambia ICT agency te also si act bi dañ ko fa wax ne agency bi dafa war a try pour ñu seet naka la ñoo mun a indee .gm bi back in here so si ko loolu nag dañ am pour lu soo see dee wax ka nganin kono tama right because buguloo nga push trop pour ICANN dem foog ne da nga bugg a jaay doole pour jël ko den nga mun a koo use at your advantage so ñu ngi def ndànka pour mun a indi .gm bi man lu ma waxoon mooy ne as early as the first quarter of 2025 dañ waroon a am .gm bi hopefully dinañ si mun a am but there is no tangible any tangible time boo xam ne di nga mën a wax ne time bi dina ñëw parce que dafa am yu bari loo see mën a lifin waaye ñu ngi def luñ si mun pour make sure ne within 2025 .gm bi dellu si.
ok suma second one bi dafa dem si mbiri digital security because bàyyiwuma ko xel bu baax ñu ko point te xam naa ne su ñëwee ci digital space bi lu ci bëree bëri réew yu ëppa doole Gambia sax dañ dee invest a lot si digital security because information data dafa am solo bëgg naa xam how secure suñ digital space bi ak yenn pexe ngeen am pour ensure ne information si biir réew mi fii ñu ngi ko highly guard ba keneen du ko mun a tampa because gisoon ne for naa issue bi with the central bank su ma munee fàttaliku so suñ bëggee move government bi mu dem si digital space bi are we really prepared ndax prepare nañ am nañ yëpp pour secure ko
ok laajte bu am maanaa la man bu ma nekkoon professor dama daan jàngal cyber security practical cyber security right and ethical hacking so waaye kenn du la mën a wax ne suma système bi is 100% proof loolu amut waaye mën naa laa wax ne nguur baa ngi def luñ mun pour make sure suñ cyberspace bi mu ngi secure number one am nañ Gambia cyber security and incident response team boo xam ne mu ngi under PURA right ñooñu leen dee seet yem façon cyber incidences moo nekk di xew number one number two si Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy am nañ buntu boo xam ne moo nekk di Department of Cyber Security Mr. Sanusi Dramé moo nekk seen director bi gaa ngee defar so many policies and strategies pour and regulations to make sure suñ cyberspace bi mu ngi safe and number three ñun si suñ agency bi Gambia ICT agency ñu ngi sampa a lab boo xam ne is going to be the critical infrastructure testing lab foo xam ne every device moo dem computer boo xam ne dañ ko use si biir nguur bi dañ ko mun a test to make sure ne safe na pour mu mun a dugga si network yi nguur bi and secondly in fact léegi nii sax ñu ngi am a bid with the West Africa Regional Digital Integration Program to bid for the establishment of Lundewa Cyber Security Operating Center. Boo xam ne centre boobu noonu dafa nekk like a lab boo xam ne dafa mun a seet mbooleem loo xam ne mbooleem threat boo xam ne mbooleem information boo xam ne mu ngay ñëw si biir réew mi loo xam ne nekkul lu baax pour mu mun koo detect and then flag ko up and then we are able to attend to that so nguur baa ngi def lu mu mun to make sure that suñ cyberspace baa ngi secure.
Not only about government information security, but even your personal security. There's a current bill, Manko read, Mangiref second reading on Friday, called the Personal Data Protection Privacy Bill. Yes. More your data si bopam as our privacy is our priority. More every day so they be online. You getting a lot of data. What happens to that? Who has access to that data? So can more they receive data? Can more they store? Naka lañ ko they use? More that act so they may ben ko pass hamna early next budget session, next National Assembly session. Moy wone jantuwa jumtuwa ñu jël ñu nga xamne képp ko xamne doomi réew mi nga na mbanga na xalel nga sa personal data ak sa privacy ñu protect ko ak sa integrity loolu am solo la comme just ma yokka ci lu mu wax
jël suma final question please so last one bi dinaa bëgg a xam Gamcel fan lañ nekk in this process because li tam gis ko mooy bunta lañ yu am solo si biir réew mi waaye gis nañ ne nekkatuñ ci compétition bi noonu te ñu ngi xala dem tam down te ñu ngi dugal ñun ñu ngi digitalize so ñoom fan lañ nekk si yéen seen plan bi fan lañ si nekk xëy na sànni si tuuti like but again bi tam naa ko put across dama xamul ndax sa ministry la moo nekk o information bi pour a xaw ma naka la moo dulee both ministries yi nii ndax dafa am pàcc pour boo xamante si yéen la moo nekk o beneen bi but li ma du bëgg na laaj ci foofu rek mooy in terms of communication tamit digital space bi mooy bi léegi gam ne GSM ñu am si biir réew bi li ñoo speed bi ak ñun at our level as ordinary citizen waaye su ma compare Nairobi Ethiopia ak fii gis naa tuuti difference in terms of speed bi ba pare fii ñun everyday ñu ngi dégg 4G 5G 5 yu noonu so bëgg nañoo xam tam loolu naka lañ ko jàngatee.
Yes, good questions. Laajte yu foor nga laajte ni Gamcel réew mi Gambia ñoo ko moom te dañ nekk buntu yoo xam ne dañ am maanaa trop Gamcel ñu ngi responsible suñ backbone bi right Gamcel dañ dey provide voice and also of course data right nguur bi ñu ngi seet naka la ñoo mën a dimbale Gamtel Gamcel pour ñu mën a liggéey ñu delluwaat si nuñ meloon. In fact, honorable minister bi xam na even président bi sax His Excellency President Adama Barrow am na si intérêt bu baax. am na ñu bari ñu waxoon sax ne nañ jaay Gamtel am na ñu bari ñu waxoon ne nañ jaay Gamcel and things like that waaye soo amee bunta yu foor yu nuroo niki Gamtel Gamcel doo dee topp rek nga make decision lu honorable minister doon wax you need data pour mun a make an informed decision foog nga xool Gamtel fu mu nekkoon fa lañ nekk tey ak fuñ bugga Gamtel dem ak fuñ bugga suñ digitalization process bi and provision of voice and data fu mu war a dem waaye mun naa laa wax ne there are new strategies yoo xam ne ñu ngi ko formulate te am 100% sure ministre bu ees bi ñëw na honorable Ismaila Ceesay fu mu ko bàyyi ministre bu ees bi ñëw na mu ngi koo seet in fact fan yële rek toogoon na ak Gamtel Gamcel ak yeneen bunta yi ak suma agency bi ñun doon seet mbiri Gamtel Gamcel waaye xam naa ne saay bu mu paree dina mun a wax réew mi ban décision la nguur bi jël si Gamtel Gamcel. In terms of speed, lolo dina ko bàyyi ak Pura because Pura ñoo war a regulate telco operators yi su fekkee telco operators yaa ngi wax ne ñu ngi joxe di speed ñu ngi joxe di speed 4G 5G su fekkee nit yi amuñ ko nit yi war nañoo mun a lodge complaint right and then Pura boo xam ne moo nekk regulator bi mun nañoo seet naka la ñoo mun a arranger loolu noonu.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, my name is Lolly M. Camera, QTV. Just to reiterate what my colleague said regarding timeline, because you've stated a lot of things that you have in pipeline, but we haven't had any that has to do with specific time or date. My second question will be directed to the Honorable Minister again. We want to know when all ministries will be up to date, because some ministries have their latest news in 2021. You cannot go online and check and find any update news. So we want to know when these ministries will be updated. Anytime you go, you'll find updated news. And when will the ministries will have GM instead of email or Gmail? Yes, thank you.
In terms of timeline, what did you want me to speak? Wolof? English. Okay. In terms of timeline, the MyGov, which is the automation of the passport application, driver's license, ID card, business registration, and birth certificate. That pilot process is on, and we even want to have the first pilot testing by the end of this month. So by the end of this month, we are going to do a pilot test of how we can apply online, and most likely in the first quarter of 2025, people will start using online applications. That's the plan, right? In terms of developing an enterprise-wide architecture, which is going to be the first of its kind to serve as a guide and a guiding principle, as a blueprint with standards and guidelines for the design and implementation. That enterprise architecture is a 9-month project, and hopefully by June, July, we will be able to get the first draft of the enterprise architecture for the Gambia, right? In terms of analyzing and reviewing the digital services that we have in the government, that is a 6-month project. The bidding is now on, and we are going to offer the consultancy by the end of this month, and then it's a 6 months by June that results will be out, and then we will move on to start the improvement of those digital services. Yeah, so there are very exciting things in the area of digitalization, and JICTA is really doing a great job for an agency that has been established within 1 year ago and is already getting involved in this kind of services.
Thank you. I think what the Ministry of Communications has done, and we commend them, is to build a website for every ministry. Currently, every ministry has a website built by the Ministry of Communication. We are also building what they call the government web portal, which will launch. We've already done the validation. It will launch very soon. That web portal is a nerve center of government information. Any information you need, when you go there, you'll get it. Also, it has a link to all other ministries. We are going to also upload all policies, regulations, acts, and any documents in the government web portal. We are building an app for that right now. a young Gambian content won the contract to build the app. He's currently building the app. It means that when we launch it very soon, you can access the web portal online, but also you can have the government web portal on your app, on your phone as an app. You can go in and even apply for, we are going to integrate the services there. So you can apply MyGov there, so you can apply for service, get all access to all information. Now, when it comes to updating, every ministry has an ICT officer, but also deployed by the JICTA. Every ministry also has an information officer deployed by Department of Information Services. Now, sometimes they struggle to get the data to upload it. If you don't get the data to upload it, there's a problem. We're working on this. These things are all new. These are all, some of them are cultural issues, like the email issue you're talking about. There's a government policy, a cabinet decision, that nobody should use their private emails in government community, because it has security implications. It has also institutional memory implications. If I use my private email as a minister, and I'm not minister anymore, I go with everything. Recently in the UK, a minister had to resign because she used her personal email to send information. And you know what happened to Hillary Clinton as well. This is a very serious case. That is why government has a policy that nobody should use your private email to communicate. You must use the official. That is why we have an official email for every civil servant, and .gov.gm. We've done training for all of them. Again, it's a cultural issue. It is now people need to change and start using government emails. But these things are in place. It's just about implementation, which is the problem. We had a training, I think, was it in September, where we brought all the information officers and ICT officers, so to see how they can work, because the information of good information, but to upload it as well. We are working on these things. Very soon, the plan is that as part of proactive disclosure, whatever you need as an information, you go to the website, you'll get it. That is why we're working on the web portal. Just give us some time. We're working on these things, and then very soon you'll get access to all information you need.
In fact, I can say with the portal that the ministry is developing, the mobile version, Mr. Ba, Manager for Data and Application Services, is also involved in that. So this is something that is happening real.
Yes, Korkaba again. My question is, when it comes to digitalization, most like when it comes to security, we often have cyber crimes and stuff. But most of our police are not trained, are not digital. You go to a police station, you find them using manual writing, and if you come back, maybe next 2 weeks, I want my statement, and they will tell you, okay, something like that. What are you doing to train those people? Most of our security personnel, and they cannot even use a Microsoft. Thank you.
I think you asked two questions in one, because first you started with cybercrime. That the police are not trained, but I can tell you the accurate information is that we even have a forensic lab, cybersecurity forensic lab that has been established, and the police that are in that lab are trained to be able to utilize that lab. So you are a bakunda, don't go and do something and you think they are not going to catch you. They will definitely catch you. They have a very good lab, which was facilitated, in fact, with the support of ECOWAS, right? And they were trained. In fact, what the ministry also did was also to train judges in understanding cybersecurity issues, so that when they have cases in the area of cybersecurity, they will at least have an understanding of it. So there are efforts that have been done in terms of capacitating the civil service in the area of cybersecurity. In the area of the police, in terms of manual entry of data or information, that is true, that is happening, but all that is part of the digitalization process, right? We are moving one step to another. In fact, I can also tell you in 2025, we have a proposal to have what we call a smart government system, right? Like a collaborative government system, a smart government system, which is going to automate so many government services, and most likely the police is going to be part of that. So these are all things that we are doing, and I think it is important that what the Honorable Minister and the Ministry of Information and Media and Broadcasting Services is doing so that the public will be able to know. Some of these things, it's not easy to just change the processes immediately. It will take time, but I can tell you there are efforts to ensure that the entire civil service, public sector, is automated.
I do have some questions. Yes, I'm also having 3 questions as well for you, and then I'm saving my last question of the year for my information minister. So my question, my first question, sir, is regarding, it's a follow-up basically on you said the domain name is under a company, somebody, you intentionally left out the name, but then you later talked about ICANN. Is it under ICANN or is it under another company, sir?
So it is not under a company. Okay. It is being managed by an individual who lives somewhere in Denmark, right? No, Norway. I think he's called John, whatever. Yes, Jorge, something like that. I did not intentionally leave his name out because, I mean, it doesn't matter. But he, actually, we need to be fair with him. He was the guy who was really, for the .gm to be working up till now, he did a lot of efforts in it, right? At the time when the government was not very much interested in it, and he still continued to host it and provide services. However, it is important that it is back. The reason why I mention ICANN is because ICANN is the international organization responsible for domain names and numbers in the world. And for you to be able to do the redelegation, you have to contact them to apply for the redelegation so that they can take it from that guy and hand it over. And it is not something that is just easy. They cannot just go and just jump on him. No. The government cannot also just go and jump on him. It is a process that we have to follow before we can get it. Thank you.
My second question is regarding the issue of monetization of digital content. It's still a challenge for Gambians. When will Gambia be able to harness this across all digital and online platforms to help private sector create employment, media houses, to be able to make money from the Googles, the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the TikToks? I think 1 or 2 of them have started. But my question is for you to give us an idea when we will be able to take advantage of the digital marketplace to make money and improve the unemployment situation in the country, sir.
Okay, good question. Again, I will reference the creation or the decoupling of the Ministry of Information and Communications Infrastructure to Ministry of Information, Media and Broadcasting Services and the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. The reason why the government did that is just exactly along the lines of what you have said, right? The Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, look at that title, Digital Economy. The government have the vision to make the Gambia a digital economy, so that we can make use of or take advantage of digital tools and services, right? For example, e-commerce, right? So that people can do buying and selling online, right? How can we access data that we can eventually use and create market out of that, right? Example, content, right? So I think those efforts are on, and that is why we are looking at different things, like say, for example, having an open data platform, right, where people will be able to go and get public-related information that they can use to their advantage. Government is also working on creating what you call electronic payment across all sectors of government, right? And I think that is also an avenue where citizens or the general public can also take advantage to see how they can provide services that can be tied into government services where people can be able to make electronic payment. As I said, in the very near future, you will not be able to go and make physical cash payment, right, at any government service. ministry or department or agency, you will be asked to pay online. So all these are digital services that the government is putting together that the citizens can do, can take advantage of. I think what is important is the private sector is very important in all these things, right? And in our digitalization process, we are going to be working with the with the private sector, especially the local ICT private sector, to be able to help in the provision of the digital tools and services that we have in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. And my last question for you, sir, is about Starlink by Elon Musk, which is being rolled out in many countries now. What's the holdup for the Gambia? When will we join this Starlink renaissance?
Thank you. It's an interesting question. Starlink has been here. And they have been working very closely with various sectors of the government, especially Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, and also PURA. They have gone through a very rigorous, review of their business model and services that they provide. And I think PURA had issued them initially a provisional license, but I was made to understand that a full license was issued recently, and it is being reviewed by the government currently. And I'm sure once the government finishes the review of that license and its conditions, the general public will be made aware.
And then my last question to the Honorable Minister. You know, my last question had to go to you, given the number of press conferences, unprecedented number of press conferences we've had since you've taken over your ministry, sir. In your press conferences almost throughout the year, you mention state-of-the-art infrastructure. State-of-the-art infrastructure. What's your benchmark? Honorable Minister, when you say state-of-the-art infrastructure, is this just the empty infrastructure, buildings, or does this include the facilities, state-of-the-art facilities required for these infrastructures, sir? All throughout the year, you've been saying.
I think I don't need to belabor on this question. Just drive from Sting Corner to Airport Junction and you'll know what state-of-the-art is. For the first time in the history of this country, we have road day up, road day down. That's state-of-the-art. I mean, look at the 6 lane. This state-of-the-art. What has it? I mean, you cannot go anywhere, and it's not even done yet. The third phase is coming, where we have the service roads. The furnitures will come. The beautification will come of the roundabouts as well. This state of the art. I mean, but for me, what is symbolic is Jali, and Tumanna, and Mankamang, and Salikenya, and Sisemaja. When I visited these health centers during the inauguration, the equipment I saw are state-of-the-art. These are equipments that you can find in any standard hospital in the UK or in the US or in any EU country or in Japan. In terms of the beds, in terms of the scanners for maternity, for pregnant women, in terms of everything is state-of-the-art. That is state-of-the-art. These are new innovative equipment, 21st century equipment. That is state-of-the-art. That is not only the building itself, but the equipment that are in that building. Not only that as well, these equipments are also useless if you don't have the staff, the right competent people to work in this hospital. That is why there is a new postgraduate program at the ASFSTH, training consultants and specialists, Gambians, not now relying on outsiders, own Gambians, and very soon we'll deploy these Gambians to every health center, every district hospital, every major hospital, so that you don't need to come to Banjul or to see a consultant or a specialist. We are going to provide this. And this is state of the art. But like I said, when it comes to road infrastructure, 2 days ago we were with the president in Kanifing, taking a tour of the roads. I mean, these are quality roads, tarred and paved all the way to people's doors with street lights. It never happened before, and that is the fact. So whatever we say, we base it on something. Schools. I was in Bolibana, the last village of this country. They had a computer lab. Flat screen computers, the last village. Whoever thought of that? They never dreamt of that before. This is state of the art. Computer labs in the last village of this country. So when we say that we mean it, we mean new, innovative 21st century buildings, but also equipped with modern equipment. This is state of the art.
My last pushback of the year.
Yes.
Honorable Minister, we talk about state-of-the-art 6-lane fast roads for this OIC with pedestrian crossings. Those roads were supposed to have flyovers. Where are the flyovers? High-speed lanes with pedestrian zebra crossings. You call this state-of-the-art, sir? Where are the flyovers?
Well,
the ladies, women, struggle to cross the road. They have these barriers on each side. Imagine an old lady wearing her malan, having to take, for me it's easy. I can do it, I'm a guy. I wear my trouser, I wear my shirt. But this old lady has to take her malan and try to scale over these barriers. They are there for a reason. But if the flyovers were there, perhaps we might agree with you.
I think that's an easy question. There are 17 flyovers that are being prefabricated right now as we speak. They'll come as prefabricated, meaning they're already being built, they just come and install them. That's why we say the road construction is not ready yet. We just have to open it so people can move, but it's not ready yet. It's still on. There's a third phase coming. The service roads on the side, the beautification. 17 flyovers are coming for this road. They are being prefabricated as we speak. When they bring them, it's just to install them. So people have to be patient a bit. That is why we created these zebra crossings in the meantime. And people have to understand that. I mean, we cannot get everything. We cannot satisfy everyone. We cannot satisfy pedestrians and cyclists and motorists and everyone. People have to make sacrifice. That is why we have intersections where there are zebra crossings, but the flyovers are coming. They are currently being prefabricated, and once they come, they'll be installed to ease people's crossings as well. But even if the flyovers come, people are still going to complain. You cannot have flyovers in every meter. So people will say, no, why don't I have a flyover in my street? I mean, I live in Kereserin here. When I go out, I have to go round to come back again. I could also say, you know what, give me a road to access the road. No, sacrifice has to be made. I mean, these are all planning issues. Anyway, thank you very much. No, that was the final question, unfortunately. Thank you very much. It's been a very, very tumultuous year. Very interesting year, a very good year for the Gambia in terms of every sector, in terms of stability, in terms of democracy, in terms of press freedom, in terms of electricity expansion, water expansion, in terms of road construction, building of schools and hospitals, in terms of human development. Everything has been very good for the Gambia. We pray that Allah Almighty also makes next year a very good year for us. And I pray for all of you that next year be a very good year for you. Those of you who are not married yet, I hope you have a spouse next year so you can get married. Those of you with one wife, I hope you get 2 next year. We pray for the president. May Allah bless him and give him long life and the wisdom to lead this country. I thank you all, and I thank our able chair for his wonderful work. And I also thank Jikta, DG, for coming and then for enlightening Gambians in terms of what they are doing. And members of the press, like I said, we are friends, we are critical partners. We cannot work without you. So even though sometimes we will have issues, but hey, that is life. We have issues, we solve them, we move. Thank you very much.